Welcome back to another video. In this video we are going to talk about the previous video where we were left. We'll continue the previous part where we left in the that at this point your code should look like this. Okay. There is a lot of type. It's okay to copy paste code from this page. However, if you are up a little change, become only copying code that's you manually type at least once yourself. That you manually type at least once passing data through box. Next, you want to change the value of a square from empty x. When you user click on the square, with how you build the board. So if you need to copy paste the code that update the square 9 times once or have instead of copy pasting the component architecture or to create a usable contact to avoid messy duplicated code. First you going to copy the line defining your component square button class name button you from a board component into new square component. Then you update the board component to render the square component using JSX syntax. Now how the unlike browser dips your own component board and square must be start with capital letter. Let's start look. Oh no, we lost the number square. Now each square say to fix this you will props the pass values. Each square should have a from parent component to child. Update this square component to read the value props that function square value indicate the square component can be passed across. Now you want to display the value instead of one inside each square doing like this. Hello. You wanted to render JavaScript variable called value from your component, not the word value. To escape the JavaScript from it, you need to curly braces. Add curly braces around the value in JSX like so. So now you should do imperative board. This is because the board component hasn't passed the value. So each value prop to each square component. To fix them, add value to prop each square component rendered by the board component. Making an interactive component. Let's fill the square component with x. When you click on to the declare function called handle, click handle side. Then you add on click the props and JSX element rate of the square. If you click on the square now, you should be see a long chain chillet in the console tab at the button square side. Clicking the square more than once will say clicked again repeated console with the same message will not create more lines. Instead you will see incrementing counter next to clicked. And the next step, if you're following this tutorial using local development environment, you need to open your browser console. For example, your Chrome browser. You can view the console with the keyword called shift control plus J on Windows, Linux or option control plus J on Mac OS. As a next step, you want to the square component to remember that you clicked and fill it with X mark. To remember thing component uses state React provider special function called as user state. This will help that can you call from your component that let remember things. Let's store the current value of the square in state and changes when square we click import use state as a top of file. Remove the value prop from the instead we add a new value new line at the start of the square that call use state have a return state variable called value store the value and set value as a function that can be used to change the value. The null passed to use state used to be initial value for a user, so value has their stand equal to null. Since the square component no longer expect props anymore, you will remove value prop from all line of the square component created by the board component. Now you change the square to display x when click. Replace with console clock event handler with set value x. Now your square component look like by calling the set function click handler, you telling React to re-render the square whenever is created after the square value will be x, so you see x on the board. Clicking in any square should be shown up. Each square has to be on state. The value stored in Square is completely independent of the other. When you set function on a component, React automatically update the child inside too. After you made the above changes, your code will look like this. React Developer Tool. React Developer Tool. Dev tools let you check the props, the state React code. You find the React Dev tool and our code sandbox. Inspect. For local development, React Developer Tool. React Dev tool is a tool compare Firefox browser extension install is to a component hell will appear in browser tail using React, completing the game. At the point you have a basic tutorial, building blocks of TikTok room, you have a complex. You know to alternate placing X O on the board. You need to be determine our lifting state of currently each square component maintain a part of the game's state to check winner in TikTok game board would to square component. How would you approach that? Let me come. Just wait a minute. Where we are. Lifting state of currently each square component maintain a component game state to check the winner of the TikTok game. The board who need to somehow know the state of each of 9 square component. How would approach that? At first you might guess that the board need to be asked each square for that square state. Although this approach is technically possible in React, we discourage it because the code become difficult to understand, susceptible to bugs and hard to refactor. Instead, the best approach to store the game state in the parent board component instead of each square. The board component can't tell you each square what display like you did when you pass a number of a square to collect data from multiple children, or you have to child component communicate with each other. Declare shared state in the parent component instead. The parent component can pass the state back down to the children. This keep a children to sync with each other and their parent. Lifting state in parent component is a common when React component are refactored. Like let's the opportunity try to edit the board component so that they declare default to any array of 9 corresponding 9 squares. Array draw 9 dot fill dot null. Create a array with 9 elements, set each of them to null. Then the use state call around it declare square set variable that initially set to be array. Each entry in the array corresponds to the value of a square. Then we will find next you have to edit a square component to receive value prop from board component. This will require removing the square component on stating each square will now receive a value prop that will enter external input square. Next you need to change the whatever square is clicked. The board component now maintained will square as well. You need to create a way to square to update the board state. Since state is prior to component that define it, you cannot update the board state directly from the square. Instead you pass down a function the form the board component to square component. You will have a square called function when a square is clicked. You start with function that is square component will click. You call a function on the square click. Next you add on a square click function start. Now you can connect the on square click prop to function board component. You have to connect on a square to handle click. You pass a function on a square click prop to the square component. Lastly, you will define the handle click function inside the board component that will update the square. The handle click function create a copy of square array. Next square will JavaScript slice array method. And handle click update the next square array. Calling the set square function, let React know the state of the component has changed. This will trigger a re-render of the component as well as the child component the square. JavaScript support closure, which means an insert function. Handle click has extra two variable function defined in outer function board. The handle click function can read the square state and call the square method because they both defined inside the board function. Now you can add x on the board, but only to upper left square. Your handle click function hard coded to update the index of the upper left square. Add update handle click to able to update any square. Add an argument I. Handle click function take inside the square update. Next you need to pass I to handle click. This could carry out a square click. Handle click directly to GSX like what you want work. Here are the why want work. The handle click call will be a part rendering the board component because handle click to adhere to state of component by calling set square. The entire board component will re-render again. What this run handle click to again landing to an infinite loop. Why didn't this part happen earlier? When you passing on a square handle click, you will passing the handle click function down a prop. You are not calling it, but you are calling the function right now. Notice the parenthesis handle click at, and that's why it's run too early. You don't want to be called handle click until the user click. You could fix this by creating a function like handle first square. This call handle click. A function like handle click square click. This call handle click. Show on this would pass this function down as a prop on a square click. This would be solved in front loop. However, defining 9 different functions and giving each of them a 9 to work for. Instead, do this. Notice syntax is handle click is arrow function, which is shorter way to define function. When a square click, the code after arrow will run calling handle click. Now you need to update the other 8 square called handle click from arrow function you pass. Make sure the argument of each call handle click correspond to the index of. Okay, but this is time to all the statement handle by board component. This is where code look like this. Now that's you are state handling in a board component that parent component passes prop. When you click a square, child square component now asks the parent board component to update the state. When the board state change, the board component give the child square re-render automatically. Keeping the state all square board component will allow to determine the winner of the feature. Let's recap what happened when a user click on the left square on the board. Click on upper left square on the function that further received on click props. The square component receive the function is on square click prop from the board. The board component define the function directly in the JS text. It called handle click with an argument. Handle click uses the argument to update the first element of the square array. The square state of a board component was updated, so the board of the its end of the user sees the upper left square has changed the arbitrary. Why immutability is important. Notice how as handle click equals dot slice to create a copy of a square array instead of modifying existing array. To explain why we need to discuss immutability and why immutability is important to learn. This is generally two approaches to changing data. The first approach is to mutate data by directly changing the data values. The second approach is to replace data with new copy. With new copy which has a desired change. Here what you would like to mutate the square array. The result is the same but is not mutating, changing the underlying data directly. The gain several benefit. Immutability which make future much easier to implement. Later in the tutorial you will implement time travel to feature that review the game history and jump back to the past move. The functionality isn't speculative the game. It able to undo and redo certain action in common. Avoiding data mutation lets you keep previous version of a data intact and use them later. There is also another benefit immutability. By default, all the child component re-render automatically. When you share over parent component, this include even a child component, this warrant affected the although re-rendering is not itself noticeable to the user. You should try to avoid it. You might be skip re-rendering. Very cheap. You might want to be skip re-rendering as a part of the 3%. Immutable make it is very cheap and common to compare with the cheater it has using. You can learn more how it you can learn more about how it chooses with true render and common like taking turn. Did you hear the guys? Did you hear the guy? Yeah. That's it. That's it.